Well, will all of this continue to show us economic growth? We speak now to former statistician-general Dr Pali Lehohla. Good evening to you, Dr Lehohla, and thank you so much for joining us. Lots of optimism that you hear there from President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying phase 1 of Operation Vulindlela was able to enable investment in energy generation, and that, of course, are going to lead to great economic growth and hopefully job opportunities and something to deal with inequality. Are you as optimistic?
Well, let me try and look at the facts. I don't think I want to talk about optimism or pessimism. I have to talk to the facts.
Sure.
In 2020, business approached government about these reforms. Of course, government ignored them, but business had a number of indicators. And I want to enumerate those. One was 5% growth. That's what business suggested. 12% unemployment achievable by 2030, which means a number of jobs will have been created, 6 to 8 million jobs created. Debt to GDP ratio down at 70% or about 660 debt to GDP ratio. Those are some of the indicators that business came up with. Now, against that was Vulindlela, whether business was listened to or not. But I suppose that's the bag of things that business came up with to government. And when one looks at the track record, it's very, very disappointing. I mean, National Treasury or Reserve Bank has just revised the growth prospects for 2025 from 1.7% at 1.6%. Last year, that is 2024, growth was at a disappointing 0.6%. And of course, what we were worried about then was whether we escaped recession or not. No longer about growth or anything, but whether we escape recession. So if there is no future proof as we do these things, there is absolutely no hope that we'll achieve these flimsy objectives. For instance, what we do know that is these PPPs, power producers, Eskom has to pay them whether they produce electricity or not. The fact that South Africa is having a better performance in electricity has nothing to do with PPPs. It has all to do with Eskom fleet being maintained, corrected, and more energy being pumped back. And of course, government has said now, I understand, that Komati will be back on track, will be reintroduced into the grid. The question is, why was it closed down? So I like future proof, not inputs, because what we are talking about is billions that have been spent, hope that there will be employment, hope that there will be growth, without a system that says future proof, having put all these things together, is this. In the absence of future proof, you cannot hold anybody to account when that time comes. This is absolutely very disappointing. And we are 5 years into, we have spent 5 years in Vulindlela. And the outcome of that effort, of restructuring and all that, is a disappointing 0.6% growth. And it's projected to be 1.7. Reserve Bank has revised it to 1.6. They usually miss the targets all the time and not overshoot, but undershoot, even when they have been revised. So the question is, where is the evidence of future proof of these monies that are spent in there? So I'm afraid I'm not impressed, not by Vulindlela in the past 5 years, not by Vulindlela in the future.
You talked about the targets.
There is no evidence.
Yeah, you talk about the targets of the next of 2030. Gosh, 12% unemployment.
Yes,
what an idea! 5% GDP growth by 2030. That's 5 years away. Help me with this, Dr. Lehohla. You know,
well, that was business. That was business coming to government then.
Yes, with that proposal in 2020.
But they were ignored. But business has been brought in. The question is, are they still working towards those targets? Or have they just been co-opted to showcase something that is called investment. When gross fixed capital formation, it's at this lowest. And of course, in the budget, the president said it's only going to be 900 billion in the next 5 years, when you need about 1.2 trillion invested every year in order to have substantial gross fixed capital formation. That then can create jobs. So the statements are much louder than the amounts of money that at disposal. Most of the time when business investment councillors are held, business talks about what you call the reserves. I mean, it's not new money. There's no new money. It's inventories that come in. So it's not any new money. And this we can prove for the longest period of time of business investment sessions that come without new money. And each time we say there's 1.5 something trillion coming in, it's inventories.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this then, Dr. Lehohla, because, and I want to read from what we heard from the president. He said, Operation Vulindlela aims to modernize and transform network industries. And I want to focus on those network industries. We've touched on electricity, so I'm not too keen on going back there, but water, transport, digital communications. And he says these network industries are the bedrock of economic growth and are essential to creating a global competitive economy. Those network industries are incredibly important for economic growth, but also have a massive infrastructure investment need and a skills need. Doctor, is that a big concern for you?
Well, look, I may want to go to heaven and I'll pray. But heaven requires more than prayer. So I can write the same statement. And anybody can write the same statement that this is what you require. But what you do from what you require is, if horses were wishes, beggars could ride. And I think South Africa suffers that all the time. There's ample evidence in the last 15 years that that's been the case. So, to my speech, if you go and look at the State of the Nation address, 900 billion rands for infrastructure. 900 billion rands in a 5 trillion economy, it's less than 10% of infrastructure investment. For you to significantly change things, you need 1.2 trillion to 1.3 trillion a year, which is 25% of your GDP, pumped in annually. This is what happened between 2002 and 2007, where South Africa was pumping 25% of the GDP into the economy annually. And only then did we see 5% growth. At less than 10%, you'll never get close to 2% growth. That is why National Treasury or Reserve Bank has revised that 1.7%. I think we need bureaucrats that have an understanding of how economics work. In the absence of that, we'll get words and words. And then the Reserve Bank will come and revise the whole thing downwards.
Right.
Not when you have failed to use 350 SRD. You know that 350 rands increased the expenditure of blacks from 45% to 62% of the 3 trillion expenditure. Can you imagine if the economists had thought about what they should do in the economy with that stimulus? It would have been much better. It would have created jobs. But what has happened is, in addition to that 350, what did the Minister of Finance do and the government do? They said, come and eat the seed. They had the two-pot system.
Yeah.
Which means that, therefore, you are corroding what you should get when you retire.
Sure.
So many more people on social grants. So The absence of economic thinking in the government is absolutely appalling. And the statement by the president just attests to the paucity of thought.
Dr. Lehohla, I wish we had more time, but thank you so much for your insights. Always appreciated. We really do appreciate you staying up with us as well. Dr. Pali Lehohla there, former statistician-general, responding to the president, launching phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela, and of course sharing some ideas on how to really get things on track.